Yes, yes. That was decent. That was like right at 55 minutes, probably an hour, low key.
So we probably only get an hour.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, they can't keep up with us. We're moving relatively decent. We're really relatively decent, but we still got a ways to go. But what was you saying though?
You were just saying you was talking about how you was talking about how damn, what was you talking about? My lady just came distracted me.
Oh, cognition and how we think.
Yeah,
How the four personality traits.
Yeah,
and then,
4 personality traits. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at those four personality traits, aggression, passive aggressive, and assertive, you can also just look at how many times or how you look at things, and how you treat people and how you're thinking. I might have aggressive mentality. Where do I center off? And then there's another thing, the triangle, right? Are you a rescuer, a victim, or a persecutor? So I think a lot, even though those are concepts and kind of like prototypes to kind of put people in boxes, I think they're very helpful because, like we said in our first season of The Masters, we said that through Ayana Amatsan, the lady who does Ayana Fix My Life, she said there's two emotions, right? The love or fear, right? So positive or negative energy. So I believe that, when we keep those basic, that's why we got to do the natural law. Man, maybe natural law should have been I don't know. But
it's a lot like a natural law, a lot easier to break down than these.
So I just wanted to drop that on y'all right there. Let's go ahead and continue on. Did you want to say anything on the ready for the next one? Okay.
Yeah, we can go. We gotta keep it moving a little bit because we got quite a few.
Yeah, we got quite a few. Shout out to simply_. Well, hello, what's going on? Like the emoji there, you know what I'm saying? How you feeling? So the next one is special pleading. Special pleading is a form of fallacious argument that involves an attempt to cite something as an exception to a generally accepted rule or principle without justifying the exception. The lack of criticism may be a simple oversight, e.g., the reasons are thought to be obvious as an application of a double standard. So examples is a difficult case is when a possible criticism is made relatively immune to investigation. This immunity may take the forms of unexplained claims, exemptions from principles commonly thought relevant to the subject matter, or claims to data that are inherently unverifiable. Donald Trump popped in my head when I was reading that. I just wanted to share that with y'all. Perhaps because of
police came to my head.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Claims the data that are inherently unvariable, perhaps because of too remote or impossible to define clearly. Yeah, law litigation, and how law can get tricky, and you go, oh man, So the classic, one more thing here. So the classic distinction among informal material, psychological, and formological fallacies, special pleading most likely falls within the category of a psychological fallacy, as it was seen to relate to lip service, rationalization and diversion, abandonment of discussion. Hello? Special pleading also resembles the appeal to logical fallacies. In the medieval philosophy, it was not assumed that whenever a distinction is claimed, a relevant basis of that distinction should exist and be substantiated. That was a little bit convoluted there. So basically, the main thing that hit me was when they said the abandonment of discussion. Okay.
Let me. I want to just say this real quick before you go yours. To add to an explanation of special pleading, it's basically saying you moved the goalposts or made up an exception when your claim was shown to be false. So they proved that you was false, and then you say, but I wasn't talking about that. I was talking, that's a special case. Or they say, well, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about that and that. But
that's why they say abandonment of the discussion. Why they abandoned the discussion? Because you lost. So you're just trying to continue the conversation on something else. Well, not in that instance, you see. We could, you know. So I think that okay. It has this thing right here. It says statistical. This variation occurs when the interpretation of relevant statistic is massaged by looking for ways to reclassify or re-quantify data from one portion of results, but not applying the same scrutiny to the other category.
Oh, this is one right here. This you know this think of when we talk about black on black violence. Is white on white violence? Chinese on Chinese
yes,
violence?
I think that was your reservations why you didn't like that, because it's just like, it is literally that. It is the special pleading. It's like, it's not real. Like, matter of fact, it's other people kill each other more. You know what I mean? But when we take consideration for the population, but still, white people kill more than black people kill each other. But
we never talk about white on white violence.
Never talk about
white crime is never a thing you hear.
Yes. Special pleading. There's this saying. Have you heard of this saying that the tongue goes to the tooth that hurts the most? Is that kind of like a nice metaphor, you think, to explain that?
I've never heard that, but I like that.
Yeah, it's like the tooth that hurts the most, the tongue gives it the most attention. So it's like special pleading is just like almost like you trying to ring an alarm, like it's a false alarm, like, oh, this is going on here, but it's not. It just looks like regardless of the facts, because like you said, it's proven already, but you still trying to re-quantify. So okay, like you said, let's keep it moving. What's the we done with this one? What's the next one?
We did slippery slope. I got my next one is the fallacy. The fallacy.
The fallacy.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it on you? Was it on me? I did the special pleader, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
The fallacy is you presume that because a claim has been poorly argued or a fallacy has been made, that the claim itself must be wrong. I'm kind of guilty of this too. No, it's like, well, you use a logical fallacy, so forget your whole argument. No, I just use the logical fallacy. The whole argument ain't still valid.
Right.
It is entirely possible to make a claim that is false, yet argue with the logical coherency for that claim. Just as it is possible to make a claim that is true and justify it with various fallacies and poor arguments. An example, recognizing that Amanda had committed a fallacy in arguing that we should eat healthy food because a nutritionist said it was popular. Elise said we should therefore eat bacon double cheeseburgers every day.
That's a perfect example of not understanding the subject.
Yeah, I see. It's saying that we see that Amanda committed a fallacy when she appealed to authority. That's what the fallacy she used, because the nutritionist said it was popular. Well, actually, that's appeal to popularity and authority. See how they combine?
Yeah. I think, is that a loaded question too, where it's like a complex questioning. Is a question that contains a controversial or unjustified assumption. Is that an unjustified assumption to assume that,
No, I think she going off a nutritionist, that's an authority, and then said it was popular, so that's appealing to popularity and going with the crowd. But Alice she just said, well, because she was wrong, we should eat bacon double cheeseburgers every day. Because her argument was faulty. So, you know what I'm saying? That's the fallacy.
Yes, it's almost like you said, appeal to authority in there too.
And so again, you're gonna see in a lot of these examples, a lot of things we talk about, you're gonna see that there's more than one logical fallacy being used at a time.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. That's what I'm like, man, that's something else. That's this, that's that.
They gotta confound you and get you lost in the reasoning, and so you just either just be like fuck it, or you slip up, or they look they appeal to emotion and they look like they won or whatever. So
yeah, it reminds me of the loaded question. You got that on your list, a loaded question? Okay.
Go ahead, go into it.
Okay, well, a loaded question is a complex question, or a complex question is a question that contains a controversial or unjustified assumption. Aside from being an informal fallacy, depending on usage. That's another thing, the usage too. Such questions may be used as a rhetorical tool. The question attempts to limit direct replies to be those that serves the questioner's agenda. Man. I think that's the fallacy that we were all kind of predisposed to those sitcom TV shows as a little kid. And the biggest thing was to have those loaded questions, you know what I mean? And it's basically just, you know, controlling my speech. And most people know when they're given a loaded question. So the traditional example is the question, have you stopped beating your wife? Whether the respondent answers yes or no, he will have to admit that he's been beating his wife.
I've never so I never had to stop or stop.
You gotta be like, it's like again, you won't find people who are gonna make themselves guilty or who are gonna admit to their guiltiness. So that's why I feel like loaded question. Like people know if it's a loaded question. Usually, I find that this is a comedy tactic, a comedy device, because it's humorous. You know what I'm saying? And
distraction on the argument.
Yeah, I think there is a useful use for this too, because it kind of I think it helps to expose fallacies too, because it's just like you know, what are you saying? You know, and there's this term cognitive dissonance. And I feel like a loaded question will kind of help us put our cognitive dissonance on Front Street, because our cognitive dissonance is supposed to be two inconsistent ideas operating at the same time. Now, it's cool. Most people know about, you know, cognitive dissonance. That's like a porn star who knows about how the society looks at it, but then she's like, yeah, you know, and she's like, you know, just not be honest with, like, you know, just the reason. Like, you just, the society can put a pressure onto you to make you feel like you have to be this way because you know it's the social norm. But you can be doing something and can it be like explaining it off? You know what I mean? So I just feel like I don't know. That's where I was going with that. But anyway,
no, I think cognitive dissonance is part of the reason why we made this show, right? It's part of the reason why we started, because you gotta break down the cognitive dissonance and believing in the society and in your government, but also knowing that they did the Tuskegee experiments. You know what I mean? That's cognitive dissonance right there. They're still paying your taxes and all of that, and knowing they're using it to fund wars. Yeah,
but see, for me, it's gotta be a little bit more complicated to that, because I'm like, people would just understand it like, oh, snap. But I think this is what it is. It's because they have the belief perseverance, right? They have confidence on these values. So it's like, you can't see this. It makes sense. Like, man, I'd be wanting to discuss something. How long we on the live? I'd be like, oh.
Man.
Okay, so there's this documentary, Loose Change, that talk about 9/11, and 9/11 was not real, right? Loose Change said that, right? Not me. Loose Change was like, don't be coming for me. Look, I ain't got no money. Don't be coming for me. I ain't playing. Don't be coming for me. But Loose Change said that in 9/11, that when you look at what it takes for those materials to collapse, the heating temperature is impossible to have reached that in a collision from an airplane. So you have two cognitive dissonance, but people can't even get there. It's like, how y'all even get there? It's like, it's this, that's why I love the term perspective selection, because it's like, no, this is what you're really doing.
What perspective selection is.
Perspective selection is basically your selection is picking and choosing what it wants to perceive. And I got that from the book, The Nature of Human Conflict by Elton McNeil. Check it out. It's a very dynamic joint, because it is basically saying, like, the belief perservations. We look for evidence that support what we want to see.
Mm-hmm. I mean, 9/11 is a perfect example of cognitive dissonance at its highest.
Oh,
Like,
we getting kind of
you see, I mean, you see, look at it. Just look at it. The buildings just.
master's thing.
When have you? I mean, let's go very simply. Let's play. Let's play with blocks. Play with blocks. If you got blocks set up so high, and then you knock the top off of the blocks,
The momentum of it all. What happened to the momentum of
don't it fall sitting like doing some of this?
I mean, all these construction workers who build all these foundations should have been the first ones to be like, wait, hold on. We designed these buildings. But it's the thing about the emotional pull. You know what I mean?
That's exactly.
But like I said,
people died. Planes were in the buildings.
Yeah, the thought that it should make sense that it happened is just like, man, we gotta be aware. So, like I said, Loose Change said this. It didn't come from Master Stain, Master Say. So y'all be,
Hey, I'm gonna say it was that time. Master Stain saying it.
So we did the gambler's fallacy. You got that on yours?
Yeah. What's that? I have it on mine, but go ahead and read it out.
Okay. So the gamer's fallacy. Okay. So the gamer's fallacy is also known as the Monte Carlo fallacy. People from Chicago crazy about Monte Carlos. Well, okay, but the fallacy of maturity or chances is the mistaken belief that if something happens more frequently than normal. Oh, it was just saying this in the doc we was just watching. Right? I like we watched that. I'm sorry. I want to get more calm in our conversation with you guys, because we're talking about information, and when I listen to it, it sounds kind of, with the Shreks and stuff. But this is very important, right? Because like I said here, it is mistaken belief that if something happens more frequently than normal during a given period, it will happen less frequently in the future. Okay, now that's all about, what is that really saying? It's like our memory, right? So it's about your exposure. So that alone is a logical fallacy, because everybody's experience is different. You see what I'm saying? So we can't be reliant on our thinking to be as common sense. That's why common sense is kind of like a fallacy too. It's like common sense. We all think alike. We all find the systematic string of logic that we can just neurologic grab up on, and we're saying the same thing. So it's just like not to because I'm for common sense, doing things that makes rational sense. But it's just like what are we really saying in that conversation? What makes common sense? How are we agreeing upon this? How are we defining that? So like this, it says if something happens more frequently than normal during the given period. And I think this is important when we talk about issues of like race, because it's just like if you're not exposed to someone who is of a different culture, of a different lifestyle, then you already may have a prejudice, or you may victimize, or you may not, how they do things, because you just don't understand it, because there hasn't been an explanation. So anything that doesn't have knowledge about it can be assumed to be a personal threat. And that's and when you look at a lot of these statements on the reason why racism is about, okay, taking away jobs, bringing violence into the community and things like that. So it's just like, it's that may not necessarily happen according to your memory, but I still feel that is because fear is the memory in a sense. You see what I'm saying? So your experience of suffering in the past could be falsely given to something that may not even happen. You know what I mean? So like you said, it's a commingling with another fallacy there too.
You only really remember like really awesome things or really scary things. Those are the two things that you have, like, or at least you're supposed to have a very valid memory of. Something that really excited you and you enjoyed, or something that really made you scared. So that's just going off of what you were saying.
And then just to give a little bit more explanation and edification to the to this fallacy, we have I don't know if I want to do this one, but they have the coin toss simulation. It's a simulation of a coin toss. Each frame of coin is flipped which is red on one side and blue on the other. The result of each flip is added as a color dot in the corresponding column. As the pie chart shows, the portion of red versus blue approaches 50-50, the law of large numbers. But the difference between red and blue does not systematically decrease to zero. So the Gamma's fallacy can be illustrated by considering the repeated toss of a fair coin. Ooh, flip your coin. What you call it? What you call it? You see what I'm saying? Man, already it's talking about your memory creating a. Ooh, that was deep. That was nice. Ooh. It's like, man, the gamer's fallacy is a powerful fallacy, yo. I mean, it opens up your
think
world
about
to
it.
watch.
I just literally, you just said it's powerful, and I was just about to say that the gambler's fallacy built a whole city in the desert in Nevada. Las Vegas is built on the gambler's fallacy.
Damn.
You know, people go gamble.
Yeah, man. And I, you know what? And I think we know that's true though too. It's like but it's like it's a fine line between understanding when you can affect reality with your thoughts and when you can't, right? It's a fine line between knowing positive thinking about me having a good day can actually make me have a good day versus me it's like certain levels. That's why I think it's saying you got to know what level you at, right?
Yeah.
Some people, I've seen some people who've been at a mental level where everything like good stuff happened to them. Like they be having like, you know, forgive me if kids watching this, you know, foursomes. They be having women to give them, you know, stuff, just like amazing experiences. And then I have some other friends who just like the worst of the worst always happen. Like I'm calling you, I'm like, what, your house burning on fire? You're like, yeah, how did you know? I'm like, because something always happening with you. Man, what's wrong with your life, man? I gotta fix my life. What's always something wrong with you? And I think it's a fine line. I think gamer's fallacy is true. Some things we are just putting into just from us, and then some things is just like your belief is powerful. Some people have developed their belief to the point where it can affect their life, and I think dreams is the biggest case of that. Right? You watch a movie and you like believe that, or you have a traumatic experience and then you start dreaming about it. I believe that that's when you start getting to the next level of, you know what I mean? But I ain't want to get caught up. Sometimes we get these powerful ideas and then we get lost in the sauce. But let's go ahead and did you want to say any more about the gamer's fallacy?
No, I don't got no more than the gamer's fallacy.
Okay. All right. So let's see. The next one is the bandwagon.
Bandwagon. Let me find out.
The bandwagon, or we can do black or white.
Let's do bandwagon. I got that one right now.
All right, for sure.
We have a special guest in the studio with us.
For sure.
All right, bandwagon. You appeal to popularity or the fact that many people do something as an attempted form of validation. The flaw in this argument is that the popularity of an idea has absolutely no bearing on its validity. If it did, then the earth would have made itself flat for most of history to accommodate this popular belief. That's some logical fallacies in the explanation. Anyway, the example. Seamus pointed a drunken finger at Sean and asked him to explain how so many people could believe in leprechauns if they're only a silly old superstition. Sean, however, had a few too many Guinness himself and fell off his chair. I mean, so you the last joint you had a problem with a fallacy. I guess I got a small problem with it.
Speak on it.
Because I think like the bandwagon fallacy is real. It's right, but at the same time, I think it's also if you got more than one person saying the same, like they say, more than one person, everybody ain't telling the same lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, I guess it's, when do you get to a point where the bandwagon fallacy is true or not? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, and I
if we
think
all sat down and saw something, just because we, just because we all agreed, we not hopping on the
right.
bandwagon. We all saw what we saw.
Yeah, and that's why this is the when we was talking about the sunken cost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's why I want to say in every fallacy, I've kind of been like trying to say when instances when it's correct. So this is only in instances when there's flawed reasoning. Now, if it's true and correct, then um, you can, like I said, you can believe something that everybody believes is right. Like I would do that with the consciousness, right? I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend doing that with religion, right? Despite the fact that it's kind of set up that way. Like you brought up in the young and it's kind of like, yeah, we Buddhists, get in line, right? You don't really get an option. It's rare. I did in my household, so I guess it's not as rare as I think. But I feel like you can be, your mother can, my mother was vegetarian. She was raised in the South. Everything came from the backyard. So me just trusting her that she was right didn't necessarily mean that she was right, but she so happened to be right. So it's just like I bandwagon on that and I just lucked out on that. And I think you can be lucky, but I think that's the problem. All of us assume that our parents was right, but our parents gonna be right with some things and wrong with other things. So it's our duty as the children to double check. Like, okay, pops, you put me on this. Let me make sure this is not a prejudice you just had. Let me make sure this is part of the truth. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm with you on that, but that's what I think it is. Sometimes we do get lucky and it's right, but sometimes it's just what you were saying. So I'm with you 100.
I also think though that the problem with the fallacy is, and where the misuse comes in is when they say, "Oh well, everybody doing it, so it's cool," right? And that's not no. Just because everybody doing it don't mean it's cool, or that's the way. Everybody is wrong. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely.
So that is definitely something. And again, everybody is watching and or listening. That this is something that you should be able to do with yourself. You have these conversations in your own head and get your reasoning and why you feel the way you feel or think the way you think about some things. And once you can do those exercises with yourself easily, then you can start applying them outwards. It's a lot harder to start outwards and then work inwards. Just an FYI. So you gotta have these conversations either with yourself or somebody close that you trust who gonna give it to you real. Like me and Master Saint, we can go back and forth on something, and I'd be like, I don't
keep
see
it true.
It that way.
Yeah.
Like, but wait, listen, hear me out, and we go back and forth until we get to a point where we at least, if we don't
understand each other.
Right. At least we have an understanding. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Do we want to say anything with that one? Any more with that particular fallacy? Okay, cool. So I got the black and white fallacy on mine.
Okay.
So in psychology, a phenomenon related to the false dilemma is black and white thinking. That sounds very racial related. There are people who routinely engaged in black and white thinking, an example of which is someone who categorizes other people as all good or all bad. Another name for this is the false dilemma. Okay, so in particular, when we talk about the representation of a false choice, it often reflects a deliberate attempt to eliminate several options that may occupy the middle ground of an issue. The common argument against noise pollution laws involves a false choice. It might be argued that in New York, noise should not be regulated because if it were, the city would drastically change in a negative way. This argument assumes that, for example, a bar must be shut down to prevent disturbing levels of noise emanating from it after midnight. This ignores the fact that the bar could simply lower its noise levels or install soundproofing structural elements to keep the noise from excessively transmitting into other properties. Honestly, when you think about it, this is with everything. There's not one situation that you can creatively think of outside of the box and change it or create another element of it. And I think that's the problem with man, it's in my I should have started with that reading with the cognition. But that's the problem with prejudice is misinterpretation. Okay, so you always have a way that you can change or influence something. It's never where you can just cut it off. So anytime somebody's trying to limit your options, that's an example of possibly a false dilemma, false choice, or the black and white thing.
I agree completely. That's just saying that's like loaded question kind of.
Yeah.
A little bit in the same wheelhouse where it's like there's a lot of nuances to things. There we go. And I think that's something that I don't think we have it as our on our topic, but it's something that we should kind of always do is that we are searching for big blanket answers to problems that they have nuances to them, and every situation is different. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's a big problem with our society, I think. That like we got everybody want to think the same way or try to get everybody on it, and it's not. Everybody is different. Everybody is their own person, and we can't black and white everything. Everything isn't black and white. Some nuances and some things that need to be accounted for when making decisions or things like that.
Yes, absolutely. So the next one, were we done with that particular one? Do we want to say any more with that one?
I'm cool with that one.
Okay, I kind of picked up the space, and I know we knocked in 3 hours. Well, we were trying to. Well, we're gonna doctor these, of course, so they can always be like, concise and smaller than we, may initially want them to be. But how you feel so far as the time? I know we about.
I feel good.
Okay. Just want to make sure on the energy. So, do you have begging the question fallacy as the next one?
I do. See, mine is out of order, I think. So
just a little bit, or some names may be switched around, but I like it that way. It kind of keep it sharp. You be like, wait, where you? Oh, okay.
What's the one you said?
And then another thing, I think I'm seeing more informal fallacies, right? You see more informal fallacies than you see formal fallacies.
Yeah, I think so. I think there are more informal than there are formal.
And is the difference in usage, you think? I need to go back to that. What is it says informal? I was just read that.
Informal fallacies doesn't follow the premises.
On the conclusion,
premise. When I say premises, this ain't a place. It's an idea. These are often or conclusions that have nothing to do with the initial claims.
Okay.
And informal ones, they are more common because those. Okay, so how about that? I think informal fallacies are the ones that are more common because those are the ones that we see being used more often because they just cloud things, or they make beg the question or load a question, or they just cloud the logic instead of the formal ones are just clear A plus B equals Z kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like, no.
Yeah, it's a standard system of logic, propositional logic, versus the informal originates in error in reasoning. Oh, yeah, that's why you got. Okay, so we ready for the begging question?
Yeah, I found it. Yeah. You're presented with a circular argument in which the conclusion was included in the premise. This logically incoherent argument often arises in situations where people have an assumption that is very ingrained and therefore taken in their mind as a given. Circular reasoning is bad mostly because it's not very good. Example, the word of Zorbo the Great is flawless and perfect. We know this because it says of Zorbo's best and most truest things.
What the? Oh, that's like appeal to authority, low key.
It's definitely also appeal to authority, but it's basically saying that, well, it's true because the Bible says so. That's
okay.
begging the question. Why is it true? Well, because the person that said it's true wrote this book, and in this book, he said it is true.
So taking people word for it, so that's not kind of bad though. That's how it's supposed to be. Everybody's supposed to be saying the truth and be trusted, but that's not the case. Sometimes people aren't honest.
They aren't honest, and you shouldn't take anything anybody says is truth. You should look into it yourself.
Yeah,
because they can be and not even know it.
Mm-hmm.
They could, your parents, they do the best. They tell you what they know, but that don't mean they know everything. So you should always, especially as you get older, you should definitely look into things and kind of question their logic. Everybody can be fooled, and now you got fools handing out foolish things.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Is that a good one?
Yes, I. I did the appeal to nature. You cool with that one? Okay. So appeal to nature is an argument or rhetorical tactic in which it is proposed that a thing is good because it is natural or bad because it is unnatural. So it's about the context, right? Not only about the context, but how the societal understanding of the context. Because some things could be bad, like pork, but it's accepted in the society. So I think
comes from the earth, from a pig.
Oh man. So still we can't escape much knowing about, right? I guess health and like really knowing about a subject. Like that's the thing that's just coming to me every time when it comes to these logical fallacies. It's like really you have to know about what you're talking about, and it kind of makes me sad because it's like there's not much. Like to really understand. So yeah. So the appeal of nature, right? So to claim something naturally is good, to claim something is perceived as unnaturally bad, to claim something one alternative is better than other natural. So is there even another word that could be used outside of natural where this is the case for the you think? Because it's like we have the appeal to authority, right?
Yeah, but just because it's an appeal, though, I don't think it's an appeal because nature is an authority, but I don't know. I guess it's a valid authority because it's been around since the beginning. So I mean,
right? Yeah.
Nature kind of knows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's intelligence created us and this and all this shit. So I mean, but no, I'm trying to think of a better word than appeal to nature.
Because I'm feeling like wouldn't the appeal to nature work in the argument with pollution? And if so, why hasn't that argument worked in the argument of pollution?
People don't want to change. People want all their conveniences and not have to pay for the convenience. You know, like
is that like the
cobalt.
sunken cost? You think we're like pollution is an example of the sunken cost? It's just like the way we've been living is not working, but we're still.
Yeah. It could be a sunken cost for sure. We didn't invested all this.
We invested all this time. We got all these new car industries. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
Forget
could be
the fact,
cost.
man. Yeah, forget the fact the ocean is becoming radioactive. Yeah, we need to put gas in these cars. That's a mental set.
All these cobalt, and all these precious metals that we digging up out the ground for our phones. And the sea of plastic that that's in the oceans.
Yeah.
Forget all that.
Yeah.
That's absolutely the oceans with the huge fishing and all that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm done with that one. If you had nothing else to say that one.
No, I'm good on that one. All right, so I got one. We'll go with the fallacy of ambiguity. You use the double meaning or ambiguity of language to mislead or misrepresent the truth.
Right.
Politicians are often guilty of using ambiguity to mislead and will later point to how they were technically not outright lying if they come under scrutiny. Self-disclosure. What up, kid? Self-disclosure is a perfect example of this. All right, so the example says, when the judge asked the defendant why he hadn't paid his parking fines, he said that he shouldn't have to pay them because the sign said, fine for parking here. So that's that it would be fine to park there. So he using fine as an ambiguous word. Like fine is an okay instead of fine, I'm going to find your ass.
Oh, that's hilarious. That was a funny one. I needed that one, actually.
I like that one. I like ambiguity. People use it all the time, but I use it against them.
So it's ambiguity.
Oh, shit. No, go ahead.
Is it taking a term and just always assuming that term means this thing? An example of ambiguity or something like that?
You could say that.
Okay. So is that the antidote one? Ambiguity or composition/division?
No, not on my list.
Okay.
This is on one.
Okay.
Again, they all they gonna all be kind of super close. So
right.
If they sound familiar, they're probably a close cousin.
I'll take the anecdotal fallacy. Okay, the anecdotal fallacy, or anecdotal. Wait, hold on. They got evidence here too. Let me read this here. It says the anecdotal as evidence from anecdotes, evidence collected in a casual or informal manner, and relying heavily on entirely personal testimony. I'm reading it because I thought that was interesting. I know it's not the fallacy, but I wanted to see where they was going with that. So the term is sometimes used as a legal context to describe certain kinds of testimony, which are uncorroborated by objective, independent evidence, such as notarized documentation. Advertisement or promotion of a product, service, or idea, anecdotal reports are often called regulated or banned in some jurisdictions. Anecdotal evidence regarding is limited in value due to a number of potential weaknesses, but may be considered within the scope of scientific method as some anecdotal evidence. Okay, just wanted to see what that was about. So your logical fallacy is anecdotal. Okay, say more. So you used a personal experience or an isolated example instead of a sound argument or compelling evidence. So using a personal experience. Again, it is often much easier for people to believe someone's testimony as opposed to understanding complex data variation across from a continuum. Features are almost always more accurate than personal inclination to
What
believe
up,
that
man?
which is tangible to us. And slash or the word or someone abstract statistical reality. So here's an example of this. It was all cool and everything, but his grandfather smoked like 30 cigarettes a day and lived until 97. So I don't believe everything you read about the meta-analysis of methodically sound stuff. So Jason is using the experience of his grandfather to talk about even the fact that he smoked all these cigarettes. He's not ill, but it's just like your grandfather was like hella. Doesn't it could be it could be various reasons. You see what I'm saying? And it doesn't it's an answer to the fact that we all are affected by. So it just assumes that because his experience was different, that automatically is going to be his experience.
That disqualifies every else that
Mm-hmm.
science is saying, kind of.
Right. And it doesn't even make sense because what if science had all these other studies and you just take a one study? You know what I mean? Like, this is what I want to say. There is something that says, if they say that if you smoke 30 packs of cigarettes a day, you get cancer, and he said, my grandfather smoked 30 packs of cigarettes a day and cancer, I'm going to more lenient to be like, he kind of did prove y'all wrong. You see what I'm saying? But at the same time, though, I'm going to know that it's a little bit more into that than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that he is right in a sense of because he's pointing out something in their argument. Y'all saying for sure you will get cancer, and that's not the case. And I think some things like we talking about when we listen to a David Icke or something, and there are some statements that are not backed off of proof. We can still pull the things that are backed into
No,
this particular
that's absolutely
fallacy. But
right.
I wanted to say that.
And I think that goes off of what I was saying earlier. What you were saying earlier is that there's exception to every rule, right?
Yeah.
And it's not always the case, but more than likely. The other thing kind of was funny because that's how we roll. Is that I come with the anecdote, and you to back up my experience or something that I've heard from someone else, who said.
Right.
So again, these are all just tools.
Yes.
And remember, you can use a tool. You can take a metal, a sword, make it into a knife and kill somebody, or you can make it into a structure and live. So tools are just that tool. They're used to do what you want with them. So we just trying to equip you with the tools to have some intellectual self defense. There we go.
Talk about the power control were powerful, but I think now it's discovery finds new powers. You see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
A
And
new ways to
discovers
build that power.
man things, and that's the assumption that the understanding of something is limited, that it can't grow and expand or evolve. The concepts can evolve. So I think it's by understanding these logical fallacies, we understand how we've been limiting our thinking the whole time. You know what I mean? What caps put it there? So if you remove the cap, can you really
it's unlimited.
We get real hypothetical. I want to do another one. Can I steal another? Can I steal a term?
Go ahead.
I'm gonna ride Master State from a term. Hold on. So I got the fallacy of the is an error in logic that occurs when one reasons that something that is true for a whole of all or some of its parts. An example: the second grade in Jefferson Elementary eats a lot, and the second one is Carlos is in the Jefferson Elementary. Therefore, Carlos eats a lot of ice cream. So the converse of this fallacy is called the fallacy of composition, which arises attributes a property for some part of a thing to the thing as a whole. Okay. It says, and a system, or if a system none of its constituents has, or perhaps it has it, but not as a result of some constituent having that property. This is called the emergent property of a system. Okay. Basically, it's I guess guilty by association. So I'm going to say the example again. So the second grade Jefferson Elementary eats a lot of ice cream. Carlos is in the second ice cream, but that doesn't mean that he does. What if he's allergic? He got allergic. So you can't assume
what if there's
that is the case.
What if there's more than 3 second grade classes in?
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about earlier. To things that have nuances and have some specialty to them.
Let's see. It has an example of statistics that I want to just drop because it's very interesting when they have those portions. So, in fallacy is a logical fallacy in the interpretation of statistical data, where inferences about the nature of individuals for a group in which those individuals belong. These are confusion between ecological correlations and individual correlations. So confusions between group average and total average. Paradox and other statistical methods. So you can be creative in this too and make up some stuff that ain't even real. Well as what's the other fallacy that is based off of true things? So this is kind of like a building up of in one when you think about it.
Yeah, and I just kept thinking about this is another example of black on black crime, or even what black masculinity is, right? It's like to be a black guy or whatever, you got to be a thug or whatever. Black nerds, it's black goth. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Assume a whole something about a whole race.
Yeah.
Definitely variations to whole groups of people.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that.
Yes, sir. So, what's the next?
Quo que.
How many? Just the double check.
I got mine is going through. I'm like pressing next, so I don't tell me how many I got.
Oh, okay. my fault.
Okay, you avoided having to engage with criticism by turning it back on the accuser. You answered criticism with criticism. It's pronounced tu quo qui.
Yeah,
Okay, literally translating as you too. This fallacy is known as the appeal to hypocrisy. It is commonly employed as an effective red herring because it takes the heat. See, red herring is a fallacy in itself. See, they combining them now. It is commonly employed as an effective red herring because it takes the heat off someone having to defend their argument and instead shifts the focus to criticism. Nicole identified that, but instead of addressing the substance of a claim, Hannah accused Nicole of committing the fallacy early. So it's just saying, well, okay, that ain't got nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Whether it's right, it's not talking about it or not. It's just making them appear on the same level emotionally. So it's like I said, cognition is sticking out when we that particular fallacy. That's why I think we're going now, right? Okay, so now we are identifying fallacies. What are so now I'm just listening to what fallacies people say. In my podcast, we got like homework assignments, right? So a good homework assignment, I would say, is to, take one person that you did, take a mental note of their fallacies. And those fallacies are saying about the person. Now, I'm going to give you a clue. This may be theoretical outside of this, but you're going to come up with 4 personality traits. Out of those 4 personality traits, which one are they? When we have aggression, passive aggressive, and assertive, and finding out where they are, because then you sees the world, because that's what cognition is. How I'm receiving the messages from the world. Because I'm really trying to think what makes people go for certain fallacies for this one, because it's so much. So the reason why we choose certain fallacies, that's where I'm going now. Okay.
Okay, I see.
So that's what came to me when you said the tu quo quo, because that's an emotional one. That's clearly about you feeling. So see, now I'm identifying the fallacies, and now I know why people are using those particular fallacies. So you can be like, oh, you narrate my conversation considering my audience.
Yeah, okay? Yeah.
I ain't gonna jump on your joint.
That's what masters do. When you see something, you just gotta say it. That's what masters do. If you see something I don't, point it out. I like that though, and that's good. We should give our homework assignments. You definitely should start. You deal with the most. Learn their fallacies. Keep a note. Master said. See what they, are those 4. What is they called?
Personality traits.
4 person tailored to more, and then see if you can adjust your conversation with them, tailored to them. See how they respond.
Ooh, is that the fallacy appeal to emotion? Now, anybody who's been listening, I see. Y'all make me cry. Hold on, y'all make me cry. Better stop playing. they're gonna cut us in a minute and 18 seconds. So when they
Okay.
cut us off, we're gonna be coming back. So I see the time is coming seconds, but we're gonna be coming back. But do we have to go to appeal of emotion, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we did that one already, didn't we?
Appeal to emotion. You might. This one might it might be rewording it. Logical fallacy characterized by manipulation of recipient's emotion in order to win evidence. Yeah. So I guess with 30 seconds remaining, I'll do the one.
I do have that one.
Okay, so we're gonna do the burden of proof fallacies, and I probably shouldn't even go into it before they cut us.
Come
20
back,
seconds.
With the burden of proof.
Fallacies.
Coming in and out.
Yeah.
Check us at this time every week, every Monday.
Yeah, for sure.
Drop
for
the
sure.
question.
They about to cut you.
And we're back.
Yes, for sure. So I have here, it says, what is the burden proof? The burden proof. One way in which one would attempt to shift the burden proof or the burden of proof is by committing a logical fallacy known as the argument from ignorance. I just like, it was like a light on that. So it occurs when either a proposition is assumed to be true because it has not yet been proved false. Ooh. Or that's belief right there. Or a proposition is assumed to be false because it has not been proven to be true. But damn, do we even need to go to examples? I mean, I see that so much, you know. You don't know if, I'm always talking about cheating. They must be like, man, what's going on with his domestic state life? I'm sorry, I'm the dude who would be watching cheaters all the time and stuff like that. It's just whatever. But like, you know, that's another thing in the belief preservation, right? Me just looking for whatever I think. Okay, so if we believe that this is where we're going, and then but I think what's more important about it is you knowing whether there is something is true or not, right? Some beliefs, like when we talk about time travel, you know, depending on the person you talk to, is plausible or is not plausible. So again, it's about your understanding of the knowledge of the subject, but you can never cap anything, right? So whenever I talk to somebody and they say no, you can't, I be loving it because I usually win those arguments because all I ask them to say, okay, if I can give you an example where that's not the case, would you go for me? And they was like, they look at me weird, but as soon as they say yes, I just look it up and I just like, okay, thank you, have a nice day.
We call those easy wins.
Easy wins. So I encourage people to do that. Like when you define terms and see somebody, you find somebody who's like, no, this is not this. This is not the case. Like, okay, so you're saying if I ever find a situation where that is not the case, and I prove that, then you're gonna agree with me. You got to say that because then you don't want to prove somebody wrong and they be like, well,
look, they gonna move
you got to get them to.
What was the fallacy we was talking about earlier? They moved the goalposts.
Oh man.
That's a perfect example of moving the goalpost on you.
Damn. No, but seriously though, you know what I mean? So
special pleader. Special pleading, that's the name
special
of it.
Pleader. All right. You see how that's But yeah, the best way to you know, because I used to argue a lot and I just learned that people want to come to understandings on their own. So you ask the question, okay, so if I can prove this, is this the case? And they say, yeah, when we getting W's all day. So y'all thank me later. So that's the burden of proof. Was that good enough for you, think?
That was great.
Okay. Let's see. Man, I like the text.
Let me get this one right now. I got my favorite, the appeal to authority. This is It's a dangerous one right here. Instead, that because an authority thinks something, it must therefore be true. It is important to note that this fallacy should not be used to dismiss the claims of experts or scientific consensus. Appeals to authority are not valid arguments, but nor is it reasonable to disregard the claims of experts who have a demonstrated depth of knowledge, which we were talking about earlier. It's about knowledge.
Yeah.
Unless one has a similar level of knowledge and or of understanding and or access to empirical evidence. However, it is entirely possible that the opinion of a person or institution of authority is wrong. Therefore, the authority that such a person or institution holds does not have any intrinsic bearing upon whether their claims are true or not. Okay, so let's. My example says, not able to defend his position that evolution isn't true, Bob says that he knows a scientist who also questions evolution and presumably isn't a primate.
I love when examples be kind of funny. You be like, wait. Yeah.
So basically, the appeal to authority is that basically saying just because an authority says it's true doesn't necessarily mean it's true or false.
No. And in the example, it's funny because he was just like, was the evolutionary doctor, right? And he said the doctor questions evolution because he's a primate. Yeah, that was interesting. That was funny. But we should call it the white coat fallacy. Because I mean, when you said it last time on the episode, it resonated with me more than ever. Because we see how many people have seen the dentist, toothpaste commercials where the doctor comes in, doctor approved this toothpaste, get your gingivitis and he's got the white coat and he's just smiling, you know what I'm saying, with his edited white smile and everything. Man, you know what I mean? Or so I think this may be a little bit of appeal to emotion a little bit, but even when you see those commercials where you see the product and you see these people so happy and, you know, this is so, it's like, oh, you automatically think I'm going to feel this way. You like, man, what, you know, it's gotta be, you know, I just want to feel that way. I might not even need the pills, you know what I'm saying? I just want to feel that way. So that's something that stuck out to me too as well. Okay, so middle ground sound interesting. I think I want to do that one. The middle ground fallacy.
Go ahead.
Okay, so put this in here. Okay, so the middle ground fallacy is also known as an argument to moderation, which is also known as false equivalence or false compromise. And basically, it's another informal fallacy which asserts that truth must be found as a compromise between two opposite positions. Okay. So to explain more, it says here, an example of a fallacious use of an argument to moderation would be to regard two opposed arguments, one saying that the sky is blue, while another claims that the sky is in fact yellow, and conclude that the truth is that the sky is green. While green is the color created by combining blue and yellow, therefore being a compromise between the two positions, the sky is obviously not green, but is demonstrating taking on the middle ground of these two positions. And again, that's what I'm saying. You can kind of see the thinking of the person when they choose the fallacy. So the middle ground, when they bring it, that's the same thing they did when Constantine came with the councils. We did some research. We found that it's been a council of Nicene every year since that particular time. And all it's been is about the middle ground fallacy, which is bridging and bringing all these ideas together, despite the fact of they being separate. You see what I'm saying? Oh, and that's called the middle ground fallacy. So if you look out the Council of Nicene, you'll find out that there's been a Council of Nicene since they first started. They continue to have. And I think they cut it off recently, but if you do the history, it's been hella councils. And if you study anything about it, it's about having those pagan ideas mixing with other religious ideas to create something whole new. And that's called the middle ground fallacy. And I think that's a good fallacy, right? Because rarely do we have human beings kind of like commingling ideas for the function. So whenever we do that, again, that's why I say, what's the purpose? It's usually for peace, harmony. And what was he trying to do? He was trying to get everybody together. It's a form of deception too, right? But there are some good and bad qualities, if I can.
I mean, so what I'm gonna say is that the example I have said this can bias our thinking by always trying to, compromise and take the middle ground. We can start doing things that aren't true.
Yes.
And truth is what we want to live by, right? So
yes.
Again, these are all tools. So you're right. It's a really good tool that they've employed, but
it's not the truth.
Right. Just the sky ain't green just because they met together and said, let's make it green. Let's just say it's green. You know what I mean? And Mark is still blue.
Dang. So, and that's what I'm saying. Now I know that when I look at all these holidays that do not originate in this particular concept of thinking, then I understand why they employed that fallacy. It's a form of deception because it's just like they didn't know. It's like you can't put a different ritual on another ritual and not know that you're doing that. So you know it's a form of deception. So that's deliberate. So I think that we can add when we get down. We're coming out with a book. We're coming out to this section. I feel like putting our own spin, like the natural law, like taking these fallacies and saying like separating them from deliberate deception versus ignorance. And I think that's the next step. Like making them more pragmatic.
Okay? Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And I'm glad we're engaging in this conversation. As I listen to this more for that particular chapter, I think that I really want to involve myself in making how we can make these things pragmatic. Anyway, how we doing on time? I know we're coming close to their battery juice and we only got a few coming down to these joints. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're coming down to.
We got a few fallacies left.
Okay. Which joint did you want to do next?
Let me do genetic. The genetic.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that one. That's interesting.
Okay, you judge something as either good or bad on the basis of where it comes from or from whom it came. This fallacy avoids the argument by shifting focus onto something's or someone's origins. It's similar to ad hominem in that it leverages existing negative perceptions to make someone's argument look bad, without actually presenting a case for why the argument itself lacks merit.
Oh, can I say something with this, please?
Go ahead.
Pretty please.
Go ahead.
Y'all look at my hair real quick, right? Okay. If you ain't see, I'm losing my hair, right? I go in the barber shop, I'm getting cut. I'm getting my hair cut all the time. I say, man, we all losing our hair. What's going on? All the barbers in there, they got dreads. So they look at each other like, man, that's genetics. That's your people's, man. That's your people. That's your people. I'm like, so y'all gonna act like it's not increasing? Like on the bus, y'all ain't gonna act like 8 out of 10 dudes on the train ain't bald head? So you know what I'm saying? So it's not answering, like it's not answering to the urgency of this new emergence. It couldn't simply just be because like it hasn't been that way in the past. I ain't seen many bald head mugs, and me coming from an educational background, knowing of nutrition, and Mantech Chia, there's always a reason why the body is doing something. So when I just want to say that, you know what I mean? I think that's a perfect example of that when they say about genetics. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, stuff can happen genetically, but there are bigger issues. You know what I mean? Because probably back then, was they having diabetes then? So how was it genetics if they didn't have diabetes then? You know what I mean? So that's so dumb. That's illogical thinking, I feel like. Like, yeah, you can create habits in life, but it's just like, that's not the end all be all. My fault, I didn't mean to take over your joint.
No, you didn't. You didn't. You gave a poignant, because I couldn't think of nothing genetically, but that was a good example. Another example that I have in the writing here is accused on the 6 o'clock news of corruption and taking bribes. The senator said that we should all be very wary of the things we hear in the media, because we all know how very unreliable the media can be.
That's like Trump with the fake news.
Yeah, fake news. That's a perfect example.
It's like a button. It's like a man.
So again, I think it's ad hominem because it's attacking the messenger and not the message. You like the senator saying, "Oh, don't believe everything the media says, because you know the media be lying."
Mm-hmm.
It's true, the media do be lying, but they not lying about you being caught taking bribes. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's a perfect example of genetic and being attacking the message, attacking the man, again, like I said, a form of ad hominem, instead of the message.
Yeah. Okay. We pretty good on that one?
Yeah, I'm good on that one.
Okay, I got the no true Scots fallacy, or an appeal to purity. It's another informal fallacy in which one attempts to protect a universal generalization from counterexamples by changing the definition in an ad hoc fashion to exclude the counterexample. We were saying in the argument, somebody does that. They do the true Scotsman. They switch it up when so it can appeal to their argument. So in this section of your logical fallacy is, okay, it says here that you made what could be an appeal to purity as a way to dismiss relevant criticism or flaws of your argument. It is a form of a faulty reasoning. One's belief is rendered unfalsifiable because no matter how compelling the evidence is, one simply shifts the goalposts. Ooh. So that it wouldn't apply to the supposedly true examples. This kind of post-realization is a way of avoiding valid criticism and avoiding arguments. Look, forget what they talking about. This is who you want. Forget all that. I wish half my arguments was like this. We just said how you beat these people. All you say is, okay, so what you're saying is pigs will never fly in the sky. They're like, right. I'm like, hold on. And just, damn, they go a pig flying in the sky. There we go. You see what I'm saying? So I don't think this fallacy is as dangerous as the other ones. You see? Because once you understand the subject, you know what I mean? This stuff pops up. Like, he's like, oh, obviously that's incorrect. You know what I mean? So I can give another example if you like, Master. You want to get another example?
Let me read the example I got, because I think it's a pretty good one. Okay. Angus declares that Scotsmen do not put sugar on their porridge, to which Lachlan points out that he is a Scotsman and he puts sugar on his porridge. Furious, like a true Scot, Angus yells that no true Scotsman sugars his porridge. So he just basically was like, he got loud and was like, well, you're not a true Scotsman. Did you do what I said Scotsmen don't do? So that's coming from, purity. Again, that's purity. That's what I was going to say. Coming from purity.
That was a perfect,
You know,
that's
it's
the perfect
like,
way to say it. Yeah, man.
And then it's appeal to emotion. Now, let's see how good you are picking your fallacies. It's appeal to emotion, too, because they get loud. And then he's discussing what a true Scotsman is. It's going to draw up some kind of emotional, response to people who consider themselves true Scotsmen. So, again, I gotta start start doing these little exercises. Start picking these fallacies when you see them. See how many you can find in the joints, and watch you see how much the conversations around the society aren't really happening, because we're not conversing. We just throwing out logical fallacies all over the place.
And he's doing something else in that too. When you think about it, he's controlling the argument by using yelling, which is a form of abuse. See, it's like we're really talking about the devices of control. So we're understanding what people do for tactics, right? So once we get the logical fallacies down, then we can take it to the more physical forms of control, because these are verbal forms of control, me using my language and my thoughts to control you. But then when you're yelling, that's a form of abuse, right? And what's about abuse? Abuse is getting a negative connotation. Okay, whatever. Abuse is basically someone trying to control you with the forms of yes, right? Force. So the 5 types of abuse is sexual, physical, verbal/emotional, mental/psychological, financial/economic, and cultural/identity. And he did a form of mental/psychological abuse by yelling, because it was this invisible force that ushered you to do it that way, right? Without even thinking, it was pushing you there. So it's a few things that's going on. So once you can separate it, again, when he yelling, I already know that's an aggressive person or an assertive person. So I've already boom. So now, once I formulate them by their fallacies, I can know how to deal with them. So how do you deal with aggression? The exact opposite of it. Calm. Right? So that's the thing about masters, is not only just taking these concepts, but forming systematic steps so we can use it to aid our life. I don't know why I'm holding up this.
Ooh, no, like, why? That's it. Because you feel it. It's coming through the hand. You ain't got no, you'll feel it through your emotions. Feel it through your emotions of your listeners, of your audience.
Oh, man.
You know they like hand movements. And hand movements make you seem smart.
Oh man. So the only thing I don't see that we didn't do was personal incredulity and Texas option.
And the Texas sharpshooter. Yeah, those are the 2 I got. Personal incredulity. Which one you want? Incredulity or Texas sharpshooter?
You want the PI, don't you? Personal and
I don't care. Whatever one.
Okay, let me do
whatever one you don't want.
Okay, let me do the personal and incredulity thing. Is it on me or it's on you?
It's on you, bro.
You gotta let me know, because I'll be thirsty to steal the light. You know what I mean? I'm like the Split movie. All the person trying to steal the light. Hold on. Yeah. Okay, so
it's enough light to go around.
So, what logical fallacy is a similar fallacy known as the argument of incredulity? Appeal to common sense. Oh, we was just talking about common sense. Or personal incredulity asserts that because something is so incredible or difficult to imagine, it is wrong. Oh, this is necessary, because I say that an example when my piano teacher come and she started playing the piece after she learned it. She goes, I'm like, nah. And automatically I feel like it's impossible because I haven't. But you can grow to new heights. That's what we were saying. The cap ain't no cap. You know what I'm saying? Cap. Remove the cap, and then your potential can go places that you never through discovery. Because discovery, that's what we have, new revelations, right? And I think that's the big revelation, right? Discovery is more powerful than power in itself, because power is limited, because it understands you can do this, you do that. It's all understandable. But discovery says, no, you're limiting your potential. You can expand and grow in that. So, let me get, did I explain the fallacy?
Oh, no. I don't think you did at all.
No, I don't think I did. I'm on a whole nother, okay. So, another word for this fallacy is called the defined fallacy. It's a formal fallacy that often happens when people say something must be the result of superior, divine, alien, supernatural causes because it is unimaginable for it not to be so. Okay, yeah, so basically anything that you don't believe is possible. And that's why I said before in this conversation, know what you think you know. Take a list of your beliefs, right? Because some things happen subconsciously. We have beliefs of certain things, and we don't understand how our beliefs of something is already blocking us through perspective selection. You know what I mean? And in the experiment and the human nature conflict, the Democrats can't remember enough information that was said about the Republicans, and the Republicans can't remember enough information about the Democrats because their brain is blocking information. So if you're not aware of this divine fallacy, then you're not going to hear certain messages because your brain is already blocked in things that it doesn't believe. You already know about the belief of preservation, right? So that's why I
Perspective
said
selection.
we can't trust our cognition because everything that we already developed a system for is already this richness.
It's
Because
boxed
it's
in.
man, and just like that show you were saying with those machines, that when there was something that they didn't
Oh,
know
Westwood.
that it was always this block there because they haven't been, and it's the same thing with us. So you have to have this level of openness when you're dealing with information, people, just in general. So I think the best way to do that is through meditation and all that. You know, I'm taking it.
I was listening to what a magician, I'll call him, and he was basically saying that you won't see it unless you believe it. You know how they say seeing is believing?
Yeah.
You can't see it if you don't believe it.
Damn. That's how powerful belief. Man,
But
discovery.
what's the study you said that belief is 30% of the reality or 30%?
Yeah, the placebo effect. The placebo effect. It affects 30% of your perception of reality. And even the secret life of plants, they talk about how their thoughts affect the experiments. So yeah, it's about 30%.
So this goes back to Master Saban talking about perspective selection and all that. This is what he's saying. He's saying that if you don't believe it, then your mind won't access it. It'll block it out automatically.
Yes.
Automatically it's blocked because your belief isn't there. So that's why I tell people belief is the last cul-de-sac to truth. Like it got you on the right road, but ain't no exit. It's one way in, one way out. And you need to be open-minded, and especially if you're gonna be following us through this journey, that you're gonna need an open mind to ride this ride, bro.
Right. And what I think is what we're not honest about is to understand that we're gonna have thoughts that are gonna make us feel bad. You know?
Yeah.
Like I had an example. I was dealing with a lady that I was dealing at the time. I changed up my eating habits, and it affected our relationship. She was like, "Yo, you eating? We used to eat at this spot." So you understanding that these concepts and these ideas really have an emotional pull on us. The reason why I say once you understand that is that once you feel that negative feeling and you start resisting, you can kind of relax and be like, yo, I'm resisting this because I've become comfortable with this, right? This has become a part of my identity of who I am, but my identity is never rigid. My identity is always evolving. So if I think who I am is stuck, you hear people say that all the time. That's not me. I'm not me. You always evolving, bro. What are you talking about? You know what I'm
Your
saying?
cells die every day.
Man,
you start. Person. Every 7 years, every cell is new in your body.
And you hold
every 7 years. So
let me bring it down. We getting close to the denouement, you know. I appreciate everybody who's been able to experience.
To tune in and check us out. Appreciation, straight up.
For real. We're gonna have the official release of this particular podcast coming very, very soon. You can look at this as the raw live footage. But go ahead, Master Sam. I know you're gonna close this out.
Okay, the last one we got the Texas sharpshooter. Cherry picked a data cluster to suit your argument or found a pattern to fit a presumption. Sounds like something we had earlier. The false cause fallacy.
Yes.
It's coined after a marksman shooting randomly at barns, then painting bullseye targets around the spot where the most bullet holes appear. Making it appear as if he's a really good shot. Clusters naturally appear by chance, but don't necessarily indicate that there is a causal relationship. Example, the makers of sugarette candy drinks point to research showing that the 5 countries where sugarette drinks sell the most units, 3 of them are in the top 10 healthiest countries on earth. Therefore, sugarette drinks are healthy. It's like, what are them? And when you read them, sometimes, like, especially as examples, you can read and be like, what? Wait, what? That don't make no sense. What is it being the top, 3 of the? What about the rest of the countries? If that is sold in, it just asks more. At least make me ask more questions. And that's just people who I personally don't like statistics. I don't like them because where you get this, who you asking, where you get the sample data from?
Yes, this misleading element of it. Like, where do they come from? You never find out where they come from or who
they never asked me.
Right.
They never asked me. How you gonna tell me the number say this, that, or third?
Yes.
I know you ain't asked me, so
yeah, and you can't argue statistics neither. You have to take it for what it is. They said 50%. What you gonna say? No, I'm 50%. But then how you gonna say that unless you was with the study? So it's just like, yo, they could just be making up statistics the whole time just to not be challenged.
So people like to say numbers don't lie. Yes, they fucking do. Numbers can be used to mislead.
That's appeal to authority. That's appeal
to authority. Yes.
Talking about numbers don't lie. Like numbers is like numbers think for themselves. Like numbers is a whole another consciousness on itself that just right.
No.
You can trust a person who, come on, man. Come on.
Because even just keep it simple with like, let's do music. They got machines you can buy to fake streams. So
damn.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I heard about that. They said that in the Schoolboy Q interview with J. Cole. I'm like,
yeah, or even you can play on all your devices. You can play the same album while you stream on silent. That's
straight.
That's faking streams. I mean, come on now, everything.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
Everything can be fake. So,
that's so true, man.
It's always allowed there somewhere.
Yeah, and then
benefit from it.
One thing I will say is I did get a little bit egregious in my streaming thing, and I think I did try that, and they know because when I did that, it gave me like nowhere near like the royalties of the joint, like because they can find out what your actual location. So the streaming thing is getting more like they know where it's coming from, but it's a way around that. I would just have people at different locations, and I would just invest in them myself. You know what I'm saying? But I did notice that because I had one album that I did, which was remember this now. It was my second album. I forget the name of it, and I did that. I faked the first 100 streams just to like boost it, and it's like the royalties was not what it's supposed to be. It was like half what it's supposed to be, and I was like, oh, stop! I was like, they know.
They knew.
So I was like, damn. But you still, it's always ways around it. Like I said, don't never cap yourself. It's always ways to go. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But it was on my heart because I'm in that type of stuff and stuff.
Be honest. Be free.
Yeah. Man, so that was quick. I don't want to leave.
You did a good to it. Look, this is just the beginning. This is just the start. We have got nowhere near the topics or the in-depthness that we're going to go into, ladies and gentlemen. We just want to give y'all the building blocks and the tools to follow us on this journey.
Right.
You need to understand logical fallacies. We might mess around and have to do a cognitive bias episode and just show them the cognitive bias examples so you can see how your thinking is even fallacious.
Yeah.
So you can combat that. Because again, I'm gonna need all of your logical facilities and popping for when we go get into these self-disclosure methods and we get into some of the things that haven't been the wool that have put over our eyes and the wolves in sheep clothing and all that good stuff. So
y'all get in tune with the Instagram right on here and our Facebook, the Masters of Soft Disclosure.
We got Instagram,
comment.
We got Facebook.
Yeah, we on the website. We got the website popping on right now.
Masters of Soft Disclosure. Everything is Masters of Soft Disclosure. On the IG is t.m.o.s.d. Masters of Soft Disclosure on Facebook. The email is Masters of Soft Disclosure if you want to send us an email. The webpage, same thing, Masters of Soft Disclosure. Hit us up. Let us know some stuff that you want us to, maybe soft disclose for you, or some topics that we didn't some fallacies that we didn't cover well, and you want a better understanding, let us know. We here, man. This is the first of many. First of
Yes,
many.
definitely.
And we're excited that y'all here.
Yes.
I definitely appreciate it.
We got curriculum for 3 seasons. All right. So we're gonna be here around the same time. Y'all look out for us on the live so y'all can start commenting on that. I appreciate everybody who said something on the comments. I ain't know Master Stain was that famous. I'm like, yo, I need to holler at my fans. Like, yo, what's good? Y'all what's up? I need my fans out here.
These my people, man.
Master Stain people's at.
They know I be coming with I be saying something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They be listening, so I just want to stay true and make sure I deliver. We deliver the information that we need to better our lives every day.
Yeah, man.
We can make better decisions and leave a better world than our parents left for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So leaving on that note, man. Positive energy. We'll be seeing you guys next week. My name is Master Say.
The boy Master Stain.
Yes, and that's about a wrap.
All right, peace out.
All right, peace, y'all, good peoples. 1.